Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the mining vessel Persistent Fortune, watching chunks of ice and rock drift past in the endless dark of the Kuiper Belt. The subtle vibration of the ship's mining sensors thrummed through her boots, a constant companion during their 3-month survey mission. Her reflection showed dark circles under her eyes, another side effect of the long deployment. "Captain, we're getting some unusual readings from Quadrant 7, Sensor Officer Park called out, his voice cutting through the bridge's quiet atmosphere. "It's like nothing in our database." Chen turned from the viewport, crossing the bridge in 4 quick strides. "Show me." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a 3-dimensional map of their survey zone. A pulsing red dot marked the anomaly, surrounded by a cloud of smaller readings that could have been debris or sensor artifacts. But something about the pattern caught Chen's eye. Too regular, too structured to be natural. "That energy signature," she murmured, leaning closer to the display. "It's almost like it's breathing." Lieutenant Commander James Rodriguez, her XO, joined them at the console. "Ma'am, if we divert to investigate, we'll miss our quota for the quarter." Again. He emphasized the last word, reminding her of their precarious financial situation. Independent mining vessels couldn't afford many wild goose chases. Chen smiled slightly. "Jamie, when have I ever let you down?" Before he could list the occasions, she continued, "Plot and intercept course. Minimal power, passive sensors only. Whatever's out there has survived this long. Let's not announce ourselves too loudly." The Persistent Fortune glided through the void, thrusters firing in brief, controlled bursts. As they drew closer, the ship's sensors began picking up more detail. What they'd initially thought was debris resolved into a defined shape. A massive hull, easily 3 times the size of their vessel. "Natural metals in the outer shell," Park reported, his fingers dancing across his console. "But there's something else. Layers of material I can't identify. And that energy signature is getting stronger." Chen felt her heart rate quicken. In 15 years of deep space mining, she'd seen her share of derelicts, ancient cargo haulers, abandoned research stations, even a few mysterious wrecks that were quickly claimed by various governments. But this was different. The hull's design was unlike anything in human or known alien records. "Get me a visual," she ordered, and the main screen filled with their first real look at the discovery. The vessel's hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating an outline of darkness against the star-filled background. Geometric patterns covered its surface, too regular to be damaged, but unlike any writing system known to the galactic community. "Ma'am," Rodriguez's voice was tight with tension, "we're receiving an automated transmission from the Galactic Council's Archaeological Preservation Division. They're ordering us to maintain distance and await their research team. Estimated arrival time is 3 weeks." Chen's jaw tightened. 3 weeks would give the Council's bureaucrats time to claim the find, classify it, and lock it away in some research facility where it would gather dust for decades. She thought of the strange energy readings, the way the hull seemed to interact with their sensors. This wasn't just an archaeological curiosity. It was technology, possibly still active after millions of years in space. "Send them our acknowledgement," she said finally. "And then, Mr. Park, please scan for any signs of structural instability in that hull. Mr. Rodriguez, review our salvage rights under galactic law, particularly regarding immediate intervention for preservation purposes." She smiled at her crew's knowing looks. "After all, we wouldn't want this priceless artifact to deteriorate while we wait for the experts, would we?" As her crew began their tasks, Chen returned to studying the ancient vessel. The energy signature pulsed again, almost like a heartbeat, and she could have sworn the geometric patterns shifted slightly, responding to their presence. Humanity had been looking for a way to level the playing field with the more advanced species in the galactic community. Perhaps they'd just found it, assuming they could claim it before the Council locked it away forever. Dr. Marcus Wong held his breath as the scanning beam passed over the sample of hull material. After 2 days of careful maneuvering, The Persistent Fortune's crew had managed to extract a small section of the ancient vessel's outer layer. The piece sat in his lab like a shadow given form, its surface seeming to shift between solid and liquid states under the harsh laboratory lights. "Running analysis pattern Delta 7, he announced to his recorder. The ship's science lab, usually spacious enough for his research, felt cramped with Captain Chen and 3 other senior officers crowded around his workstation. Previous patterns have shown minimal penetration of standard scanning frequencies, but if we modulate the sample moved. Everyone took an involuntary step back as the material rippled, its surface developing intricate patterns that hadn't been there moments before. The scanner's readout spiked, numbers scrolling faster than the human eye could follow. "That's impossible," Wang whispered, adjusting his glasses with shaking hands. "The energy output is increasing. It's not just resistant to the scan. It's absorbing the energy and growing stronger." Captain Chen leaned forward, her dark eyes reflecting the shimmer of the transformed material. "Like a muscle responding to exercise," she mused. "Dr. Wang, could this be some form of defensive mechanism?" Before he could answer, his tablet chimed with an incoming priority message. The Galactic Science Academy was demanding immediate cessation of all testing, citing preservation protocols. Wang ignored it, his attention fixed on the remarkable transformation occurring before them. "Look at this structure," he said, pointing to the microscopic display. "The material isn't just absorbing energy, it's reorganizing itself at the quantum level, creating new pathways, like it's learning." The sample surface had developed a crystalline pattern that seemed to pulse in time with the scanner's beam. Wang adjusted the frequency, and the pattern shifted again, adapting to the new energy signature. Years of research into advanced materials had never prepared him for anything like this. The Accioni Confederation ships use crystalline technology in their weapon systems, Security Chief Patil observed from her position by the door, but nothing this sophisticated. "Because they're working from their own development path," Wang replied, excitement overriding his usual scientific caution. "This is something else entirely. The geometric patterns we saw on the hull. They're not decoration or writing. They're programming. This material was designed to be modified, to evolve." He pulled up a 3-dimensional model of the sample's molecular structure. "See these lattice formations? They're like blank spaces in a circuit, waiting to be filled. The original builders left room for improvement, for adaptation. This technology isn't finished. It's waiting for someone to complete it." Captain Chen's communication device buzzed, displaying another urgent message from the council. She silenced it without looking. "How long until you can replicate it?" Wang ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "Captain, with all due respect, we're talking about technology that's millions of years ahead of our current understanding. The Council's research facilities would take decades just to." "That's not what I asked, Marcus." Chen's voice was quiet but firm. "Can we do it?" He looked at the sample again, watching as it continued to respond to and improve upon its own structure. The Council would want to preserve it, study it in controlled conditions, write papers about its historical significance. But they'd missed the point entirely. "Yes," he said finally. "We can. The material practically wants to be replicated. All these empty patterns, they're like a blueprint, showing us exactly where to make improvements. We just need to think differently about how we approach it." Chen nodded, a slight smile playing at her lips. "Then that's what we'll do. The Council can have their artifact once we've learned its secrets. Humanity's been looking for a way to catch up with the other species' technology. Now we're going to leap ahead of them entirely." As if in response to her words, the sample pulsed again, its surface taking on a mirror-like sheen that reflected their determined faces back at them. In that reflection, Wang saw not just their present moment, but humanity's future among the stars. The research facility on Europa didn't officially exist. Hidden beneath the moon's icy surface, it housed humanity's greatest minds, all focused on one goal: understanding the ancient hull technology. Dr. Marcus Wang stood in the central laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays showing the latest test results. The quantum crystalline structure acts like a living circuit, he explained to the assembled team. Behind him, a massive section of replicated hull material pulsed with an inner light. Each geometric pattern serves as both programming and pathway. When we introduce new energy patterns, he gestured, and one of his assistants activated a focused beam of energy. The whole section rippled, its surface flowing like quicksilver, before resolving into a more complex pattern. The assembled scientists murmured in appreciation. It doesn't just adapt, Wang continued, his excitement barely contained. It improves upon the original design. Every test makes it stronger, more efficient. The original builders created something that could evolve beyond their own understanding. Captain Chen watched from the observation deck above, accompanied by Admiral Harrison of Earth Fleet Command. The Admiral's weathered face remained impassive, but his fingers drummed steadily on the railing. The Axioni Confederation has increased their patrols near our research stations, Harrison said quietly. Their energy-based scanning technology keeps picking up traces of our work, despite our best containment efforts. Chen nodded. The whole material responds to any form of energy input. It's like trying to hide a conversation in a room full of echoes. She paused, considering. Or perhaps it's more like it's trying to answer them. Below, Wang's team had moved to the manufacturing section. Newly created hull plates lined the walls, each bearing patterns slightly different from the last. The original sample they'd taken from the derelict ship now sat in a specially designed containment unit, its surface constantly shifting as if restless. 3 more colonies have requested immediate implementation of the technology, Harrison continued. The Council's preservation order doesn't carry much weight out on the frontier. People are scared, Sarah. Something about this discovery has everyone on edge, not just the Axioni. Before Chen could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Warning lights bathed the laboratory in red as scientists rushed to their stations. Wang's voice came over the comm, tense but controlled. Captain, you need to see this. The original sample. It's responding to something. Chen and Harrison hurried down to the main lab. The containment unit's sensors were registering massive energy fluctuations as the sample's surface churned with activity. New patterns emerged and dissolved in seconds, more complex than anything they'd seen before. It started exactly 3 minutes ago, Wang explained, his fingers flying over the control panel. No external energy input, no stimuli we can detect. It's like it's receiving a signal, but we can't detect the source, Chen finished. She studied the sample's behavior, remembering how it had first responded to their scans. Marcus, bring up the star charts for the outer rim. As the holographic map filled the air around them, Chen's suspicion crystallized into certainty. The sample's patterns matched the distribution of several newly discovered energy anomalies along the galaxy's edge. Whatever they'd awakened in that ancient hull was part of something much larger. It's not just receiving the signal, she said slowly. It's receiving coordinates. The original builders left more than technology behind. They left a warning. And we just helped it start broadcasting. Harrison's face paled slightly. Broadcasting to what? Before anyone could answer, the sample's activity peaked. Its surface resolved into a perfect replica of the star chart before them, with one crucial difference. It showed massive objects moving through the void between systems, following paths that led directly to populated space. Wang stared at the display, his scientific excitement giving way to growing concern. Captain, I don't think we found this ship by accident. I think it wanted to be found, because it knew they were coming back. The ancient hull material pulsed once more, its patterns now a perfect match for the energy signatures appearing at the edge of known space. Humanity had wanted to change the game. Now they were about to discover just how high the stakes really were. The bridge of the prototype vessel, Quantum Dawn, hummed with nervous energy as Captain Chen watched the final systems check. The ship represented humanity's first full implementation of the ancient hull technology, its surface rippling with patterns that seemed to dance in the starlight. All sections report ready, Rodriguez announced from his station. He'd followed Chen from the Persistent Fortune to this new command, bringing his steady reliability to an uncertain mission. Hull resonance at optimal levels. Dr. Wang's voice came through the comm from his laboratory 2 decks below. The quantum crystalline matrix is stable. Energy absorption and distribution systems are functioning better than our simulations predicted. Chen nodded, but her attention was fixed on the long-range sensor display. Across known space, ancient beacons were awakening, each one perfectly matched to the patterns they'd discovered in the derelict ship's databanks. The galaxy was lighting up with warning signs, and humanity's first advanced vessel was about to investigate. "Take us out, Helm. Nice and easy." The Quantum Dawn slipped from its construction dock, its modified hull catching and refracting light in ways that made it seem to fade in and out of visibility. As they cleared Earth's orbital space, Wang's sensors detected the first probe from an Axioni observation post. "Energy scan incoming," he reported. "The hull is fascinating. It's not just deflecting the scan, it's learning from it. Each probe makes the defensive matrix stronger." Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Axioni Confederation had been watching Earth's shipyards with increasing concern, their energy-based technology giving them unique insight into humanity's progress. Now they were about to see just how far that progress had taken them. "Message from Axioni Command," Rodriguez reported. "They're demanding we power down our unauthorized experimental systems and prepare for inspection." "Send them our diplomatic authorization," Chen replied. "Remind them that under Article 7 of the Technology Development Treaty, emerging species are permitted to advance their defensive capabilities." The Axioni response was immediate and predictable. Another scan, this one much more powerful. The hull's surface rippled in response, geometric patterns flowing and reforming as it absorbed and processed the energy. "Captain," Wang's voice held a note of excitement, the hull's reaction to their scan. "It's unlocked another portion of the derelict's databanks. The patterns, they're not just a warning. They're instructions." On the main screen, fragments of data streamed past. The ancient language was still indecipherable, but the technical diagrams needed no translation. They showed ships, hundreds of them, linked together in complex formations. Energy flowed between them in patterns that matched the awakening beacons. "They fought as one," Chen murmured, understanding dawning. The ancient builders, they didn't just create adaptive ships. They created a network that could learn and evolve as a single entity. A new alert caught their attention. At the edge of their sensor range, strange energy signatures had appeared. They moved unlike any known ship, their patterns shifting and changing in ways that defied conventional physics. Wang's voice was tense. "Captain, the hull is reacting to those signatures. The patterns, they're exact matches for combat data we found in the derelict's records. Whatever the ancient builders fought. I think we just found them." The Quantum Dawn's hull pulsed with increased activity, responding to some signal they couldn't detect. Throughout known space, the ancient beacon's light grew stronger, their warning now unmistakable. Humanity had built this ship to prove they could compete with the galaxy's advanced species. Instead, they'd awakened something that threatened them all. "Send word to Earth," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the growing tension. "Tell them to accelerate production of the modified hull systems, and get me a secure channel to the Axioni Confederation." She paused, watching the mysterious signatures multiply at the edge of known space. "Tell them humanity would like to discuss an alliance. I think we're all going to need each other very soon." The crystalline fleet emerged from the darkness like shards of broken stars, their hulls shifting and flowing with impossible grace. Captain Chen watched from the Quantum Dawn's bridge as the first wave approached the outer colony of Novaterra, her hands tight on the command rail. 57 ships in the initial formation, Rodriguez reported, his voice carefully controlled. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. They're evolving as we watch." The alien vessels moved with perfect synchronization, their forms twisting and reshaping themselves to create new configurations. Traditional scanning systems couldn't track them. Their shapes changed too quickly, their energy patterns too complex to analyze. Multiple attempts at communication have failed, Communications Officer Lai announced. They're not even acknowledging our signals. Dr. Wang's voice came through the command channel, tense but excited. Captain, our hull is responding to their presence. The quantum crystalline matrix is generating new patterns I've never seen before. It's remembering something. The quantum dawn's surface rippled with increasing activity, geometric designs flowing and reforming as it processed the ancient memories encoded in its structure. Chen had seen the hull adapt before, but this was different. This was recognition. They're powering weapons, Rodriguez warned. Energy buildup beyond anything we've encountered. All colonies are initiating emergency protocols. The first attack came without warning. Beams of coherent energy, twisted into impossible shapes by the crystalline ship's fluid geometry, lanced out toward Novaterra's defensive platforms. Traditional shields collapsed instantly, but the platforms didn't explode. Amazing, Wang breathed, watching his sensors. The hull modifications we installed last month, they're not just absorbing the energy. They're learning from it. Each attack makes them stronger, more efficient at processing the input. Chen leaned forward, studying the tactical display. The defensive platform's hulls now pulsed with the same energy signature as the attacking vessels, but there was something more, something unexpected. The patterns, she said suddenly. They're synchronizing. Marcus, are you seeing this? Yes. The scientist's voice rose with excitement. The hull segments aren't just adapting individually. They're forming a network, just like the ancient data suggested. But we're doing it differently. Better. The crystalline fleet launched a second wave of attacks, their weapons reconfigured to override the adapting defenses. But with each blast, the network of modified hulls grew stronger. The defensive platforms began moving in concert, their energy patterns linking together in an expanding web. All ships, maintain formation, Chen ordered as the quantum dawn took its position. Let the hull technology do what it was designed for. Don't fight the changes, enhance them. The alien vessels seemed to pause, perhaps sensing that something was different about this encounter. Their fluid forms rippled with new patterns, weapons reconfiguring for maximum devastation. Energy spike. Rodriguez called out. They're launching everything they have. The space around Novaterra lit up like a newborn sun as the crystalline fleet released their full power. Chen felt the quantum dawn shudder as the hull absorbed unprecedented levels of energy. Warning signals blared throughout the ship, but they held. Hull integrity at 115%, Wang reported, his voice filled with wonder. Captain, we're not just surviving the attacks. We're getting stronger. The network is. It's singing. Chen could feel it too, a harmonic resonance running through the ship, through all their ships. The modified hull technology wasn't just protecting them. It was turning them into something new, something that could match the fluid grace of their ancient enemy. The crystalline fleet is pulling back, Rodriguez announced. They seem confused. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The ancient builders had created technology that could adapt and evolve, but they'd never imagined what humanity might do with it. Their enemy had expected to find primitive defenses. Instead, they'd found an entirely new kind of resistance. Send word to Earth, she ordered. Tell them we know how to fight back. And tell Dr. Wang to prepare his data. It's time to show the galaxy exactly what humanity can do with a second chance at ancient technology. The holographic war room aboard Earth's orbital command station displayed a real-time map of known space, with red markers indicating the crystalline fleet's advance. Captain Chen stood before the assembled admirals and scientists, the quantum dawn's battle data playing behind her. Their technology adapts to conventional attacks, she explained, highlighting key moments from the Novaterra defense. But our modified hull network doesn't just adapt, it evolves. Each encounter makes the entire system stronger. Dr. Wang stepped forward, his usually disheveled appearance now sharp and focused. The quantum crystalline matrix we developed can synchronize across vast distances. What we discovered at Novaterra was just the beginning. If we link enough ships together, you want to turn our entire defense fleet into one massive energy absorption network. Admiral Harrison finished, his expression thoughtful. Has anything like this ever been attempted? The ancient builders tried, Wang replied, pulling up diagrams from the Duralix databanks. But they thought too linearly. They created ships that could adapt individually. We're creating a symphony. Chen gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show her proposed formation. Ships arranged in intricate patterns, their modified hulls designed to channel energy between them like a living circuit. The crystalline fleet expects us to fight like everyone else. Each ship for itself, each colony defending alone. Instead, we'll turn their own energy against them, amplifying it through the network until... A priority alert cut through the presentation. The crystalline fleet had appeared near Alpha Centauri, their fluid forms more complex than before. The colony's automated defenses engaged immediately, but something was different. They're adapting faster, Wang observed, studying the incoming data, learning from their defeat at Novaterra. But so are we. Chen turned to the assembled leaders. We don't have time for more simulations. Either we commit to this strategy now, or we lose everything. The Axioni Confederation has already pledged their support. Their energy weapons will give our network more power to work with. Admiral Harrison stood, his decision made. How long to implement the modifications fleet-wide? 3 days, Wang answered. We've streamlined the process. The hull technology wants to connect. We just have to let it. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of activity. Chen supervised from the quantum dawn as ships arrived from across human space, each one receiving the modified hull upgrades. The vessel's surface rippled with increasing frequency as more ships joined the network, their patterns synchronizing into something greater than the sum of their parts. Final ship reporting ready, Rodriguez announced from his station. The tactical display showed hundreds of vessels arranged in a complex three-dimensional pattern, their hulls pulsing in harmony. Wang's voice came through the command channel, filled with barely contained excitement. The network is stable. Energy transfer efficiency at 200% of projected levels. Captain, it's not just working. It's exceeding every parameter we calculated. Chen studied the formation, seeing not just ships but the fragments of an ancient legacy made whole in ways its creators never imagined. Status of the crystalline fleet. Approaching Alpha Centauri's outer markers. Their energy signatures are extraordinary. They've reconfigured themselves into forms we've never seen. Good, Chen replied, surprising her crew. Let them bring their best. Humanity's done playing catch-up with advanced species. It's time to show the galaxy what innovation really means. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships maintain formation. When they attack, don't fight the energy transfer. Embrace it. Let it flow through the network. Strengthen it. Guide it. We're not just ships anymore. We're the next evolution of space warfare. The crystalline fleet appeared at the edge of their sensor range, their fluid forms rippling with deadly purpose. But this time, humanity wasn't scrambling to defend isolated colonies. This time, they were ready. All ships, Chen ordered, feeling the quantum dawn pulse in synchronization with hundreds of others, prepare to receive their energy. Let's show them what happens when humanity decides to change the rules of engagement. The void between Earth and Mars filled with light as the crystalline fleet launched their first assault. Hundreds of energy beams, each powerful enough to shatter a conventional capital ship, converged on the human defense network. Captain Chen watched from the Quantum Dawn's bridge, her expression calm despite the approaching storm. Energy surge incoming, Rodriguez reported. Their weapons have reconfigured into new forms. They're trying to overwhelm our absorption capacity. Let them try, Chen replied. All ships, maintain your positions. Feel the network, trust the connection. The first wave hit like a solar flare. The Quantum Dawn's hull blazed with absorbed energy, geometric patterns flowing across its surface in increasingly complex designs. Throughout the fleet, modified hulls pulsed in perfect synchronization. Network stability at 120%. Dr. Wang's voice held a note of triumph. The energy isn't just being absorbed, it's strengthening our connections. Each ship is amplifying the effect. On the tactical display, Chen watched as the human fleet's formation began to shift. Not the chaotic scattering the crystalline ships had expected, but a deliberate, choreographed movement. Ships flowed into new positions like dancers following an invisible conductor. "They're preparing another attack," Rodriguez warned. "Multiple vectors, varying energy frequencies." "Perfect," Chen smiled. "All ships, execute pattern Omega. Show them what we've learned." The crystalline fleet's second wave struck just as the human network completed its transformation. This time, the absorbed energy didn't just strengthen their defenses. It flowed through the connected ships in precise patterns, building and amplifying with each transfer. "Power levels exceeding all previous records," Wang reported excitedly. "The hull modifications are evolving faster than their attacks can adapt. We're not just surviving their assault. We're teaching them a lesson in human ingenuity," Chen finished. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, prepare for synchronized energy redistribution. Let's show them what happens when you push humanity too far." The network pulsed as one, hundreds of ships acting as a single organism. Energy collected from the crystalline fleet's attacks coursed through the modified hulls, growing stronger with each transfer. The geometric patterns that had started as simple defense mechanisms now danced across the ship's surfaces like living circuitry. "Crystalline fleet is adjusting formation," Rodriguez called out. They're falling back." "No," Chen corrected, studying their movement. "They're preparing for their final attack. They've realized we're not as primitive as they thought. Now they'll show us everything they have." The enemy ships flowed together, their fluid forms merging into massive geometric shapes that defied conventional physics. Energy built up in their combined weapons, threatening to surpass even their previous attacks. "All ships," Chen's voice carried across the network, steady and determined. "Remember your training. Don't fight the energy. Become part of it. Let it flow through you, strengthen you, guide you." Humanity didn't just adopt this technology. We perfected it. The crystalline fleet released their full power, a blast that lit up the solar system like a second sun. But the human network was ready. As the energy struck their combined defenses, something unprecedented happened. The modified hulls didn't just absorb the attack, they resonated with it, creating harmonics that amplified through the entire network. Each ship became a node in a vast energy web, processing and redirecting power in ways the ancient builders had never imagined. "It's working," Wang's voice filled with wonder. "The network is achieving perfect synchronization. The energy patterns, they're beyond anything we've seen before." Chen watched as the absorbed power built to impossible levels, the network humming with potential. Humanity had taken an ancient defense system and turned it into something entirely new. Now it was time to show their enemies exactly what that meant. "All ships," she ordered, feeling the quantum dawn pulse in harmony with hundreds of others. "Return fire." The combined energy of hundreds of ships erupted from the human network in a perfectly synchronized burst. Light cascaded through space in geometric patterns that mirrored the ancient hull's designs, but with a distinctly human innovation. The crystalline fleet's massive formation wavered as the redirected power struck their combined defenses. Energy output at 300% of theoretical maximum, Dr. Wang reported, his voice filled with awe. "The network isn't just redirecting their attack, it's improving upon it." Captain Chen watched as the crystalline ships began to separate, their fluid forms struggling to maintain cohesion under the assault. "They expected us to fight like the ancient builders," she observed. "They never imagined we'd turn their own energy into something new." The Quantum Dawn's hull pulsed in harmony with the fleet, each ship adding its own signature to the network's symphony. The geometric patterns that flowed across their surfaces had evolved beyond their original programming, becoming something that merged ancient wisdom with human creativity. Multiple signatures breaking formation, Rodriguez announced. Their energy patterns are destabilizing. They can't adapt fast enough to counter their own weapons. Through the command channel, Admiral Harrison's voice carried a note of triumph. The Accioni Confederation reports similar success in their sector. The enemy fleet is retreating across all fronts. Well done, Captain. Humanity just changed the balance of power in the galaxy. But Chen's attention was fixed on something else. The whole network was displaying new patterns, different from both the combat configurations and the ancient warnings. Dr. Wong saw it too. Captain, these signals, they're not just patterns anymore. They're a language. The crystalline fleet. They're trying to communicate. Open a channel, Chen ordered. Let's see what happens when you force an adaptive species to think differently. The message that came through wasn't in words, but in pure energy patterns translated through the whole network. Images and concepts flowed between the two fleets, telling a story that spanned millions of years. They were testing us, Wang realized, studying the data, just like they tested the ancient builders. They're not invaders. They're guardians, seeking species worthy of inheriting the galaxy's legacy. The crystalline ships had reformed into a new pattern, one that resonated with harmony rather than conflict. Their fluid forms created shapes that complemented the human network's geometry, turning the space between fleets into an artist's canvas of light and energy. The ancient builders created the whole technology, but never fully understood it, Chen said, comprehension dawning. They fought against the Guardians instead of learning from them. But humanity. We did what we always do, Wang finished. We innovated, adapted, saw possibilities where others saw only weapons. The network doesn't just protect us, it connects us. Through the whole network, more information flowed. The Guardians had waited eons for a species that could take the ancient technology and transform it into something greater. Humanity's solution of creating a unified network, of turning defensive systems into a cooperative symphony, had proven they were ready for the next step. They're offering to teach us, Wang breathed, his scientific excitement returning. Not just about the whole technology, but about everything they've learned watching civilizations rise and fall. All the knowledge they've gathered, freely shared with a species that proved worthy of it. Chen opened a channel to Earth Command. Admiral, recommend we accept their offer. Humanity's been looking for a way to advance beyond our current limitations. I think we just found it. Not through conflict, but through innovation. The crystalline ships began to move again, but not in retreat. They flowed into formation alongside the human fleet, their energy patterns synchronizing with the network in ways that enhanced rather than opposed it. The combined fleets created new geometric designs in space, writing the first chapter of a partnership that would reshape the galaxy. Send word to all colonies, Chen ordered, watching as ancient technology and human ingenuity merged into something unprecedented. Tell them that humanity just earned its place among the stars. Not by following the path others laid out, but by finding our own way forward.